My work is not quite perfect. Perhaps it still contains something of life, because perfection often prevents the work from breathing.
Portraits are the most intimate photographs. The image will survive the subject. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 244.
For the area code that serves the... No, where are we? No, we're not that. It's the middle... No, it's the end of September. No, the middle of October.
Well, the middle of October, yes.
Middle of October.
For
area code 240, before I sidetracked myself for no reason.
Yeah.
The area code 240 serves Western Maryland, including cities like Rockville, Frederick, Hagerstown, Waldorf, and Washington, D.C. suburbs such as Silver Spring.
I'm actually kind of surprised that there's an area code that has a 0 in it. Somehow I always thought the
zero at the end.
Yeah. At the end. Yeah. Anyway, what do I know about area codes? Although by the end of our multiple shows with area codes, we'll know everything about them. So
when we hit the 4-digit, then what are we going to do?
4 digits. Oh my God.
4 digits.
Well, that's
Street Shots 1000. Huh.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What happens there?
We're getting close to 250 though.
Yeah.
We got 10 more episodes for 250. Sorry, you might hear me reaching and going after a fruit fly that seems to be flying around. Well, it isn't seeming to be. It is flying around.
He wants fame. He wants to be on the show.
He wants to be on the show. Yeah. Well, luckily we're not doing any video on this. Otherwise,
yeah.
Yeah. But if I get that guy, if you hear me clap all of a sudden, please excuse me. It's because the fruit fly was right in the perfect spot. Anyway, yes. So we're in the middle of October, right?
Middle of October, yes. Fall, actual fall.
Actual fall, yeah. We had one day where it was really hot, and then the next day it was cold. Now it's evened up. We're back up to the 70s, but that was kind of weird. So
I think we've had 2 nights where we had frost, just enough to,
really?
Get on the windshield of the cars and that, whatever.
Yeah.
Most of the leaves are on the ground now.
Oh, really?
More than half, maybe more than half.
How were the colors?
We just really have yellows in this neighborhood. So yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's not that great here. It's just they fall off. We have a larch. The neighbor's house have a larch, and it's evergreen. That's not an evergreen. The needles turn yellow and fall off, and that's interesting. But
larch.
A larch.
That's Monty Python.
That's Python. The larch.
The larch.
Yeah.
We're not turning here yet. There's a few little trees here and there that are turning, but not much yet. And what I come to realize is that a lot of the trees here have been planted by human beings, and Nebraska wasn't naturally tree. Actually, during I don't know if it was between our two shows. Yeah, because we recorded with Ben a little while back, and when so it's been a while since you and I spoke, but I actually went to the home of Arbor Day.
Oh,
well, actually, Nebraska is the home of Arbor Day, but the guy who created Morton Salt, we went to his mansion, and because it was like an apple fest nearby, so we went to this apple fest, and then we went to the Morton mansion. I can't remember what it was called, and that was where Arbor Day was invented or something like that. I learned about Arbor Day and salt. And why the little girl is pouring salt while she's walking in the rain with an umbrella. I don't know if you remember the Morton salt boxes.
Yeah, I've seen the
idea that there was something in the salt that kept it from clumping. So even on humid days, it would still. But we went into this mansion, and it was from the early 1900s or something like that, late 1800s, early 1900s. With something like 50 rooms in it. It was insane, but it was an incredibly cool American history thing there, like this salt story. And then Grover Cleveland had been there and visited and all this stuff. And it was, a beautiful house that was renovated at some point in the recent past because it had been falling apart, and they had gotten some money and they renovated, and it was really, really nice. It was really great seeing this place, and it was one of these places you get lost in. But
Oh, cool.
why did I say this? Oh, because that's where Arbor Day was.
Right.
was not invented. Was it came out of the ground,
Came,
more
yeah.
or less. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, well, where was I going with that? I totally lost my train of
Well,
thought.
things you've done, like
Oh,
photographically,
trees. We were talking
trees.
about trees. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
take that many photographs. I think I photographed with my phone and my X100 a little bit,
Mhm.
but it was mostly phone stuff because what am I going to do with it? We talked about that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
filling up the camera roll with memories and stuff. But there was some nice things in there. The light in that place was really nice. They had a lot of these stained glass windows and frosted windows and stuff, and it was really cool. So, but anyway, if you're in the neighborhood in I forgot what town it's in. It wasn't. It was about an hour, 40 minutes. Maybe it was 40 minutes away from Lincoln.
Okay.
I just don't remember the town off the top of my head, but I highly recommend it. I was like, it was a really cool thing. So we're finding a lot of these like historical places that are just sort of popping up
Yeah,
here and there.
in the story you're telling me about the mansion reminds me of when I took my mother on a road trip through the Western U.S. and we'd stopped in Portland at the Pittock Mansion. He was a newspaper magnate in the Pacific Northwest. Same story. The house was falling apart, and they started fixing it up in the '60s, and it's this kind of national, landmark there with the papers that he owned and that sort of thing. It's up on the hill overlooking Portland. It's quite a beautiful vista that you could see from the house, and
Yeah, I love
it was
those
a
old.
nice
I
size.
love those old locations.
Yeah.
I had once for a long time ago. There's a mansion. What a mansion! There's this place in New York on the upper town, very close to the tip of Manhattan, near St. John the Divine's Cathedral and Columbia University, more or less. It's called Jumel Mansion, Morris Jumel Mansion, and it's Morris and Jumel are two last names.
Mm.
Did I talk about this already?
Nope. Not that I
Okay.
remember.
Well, we went to. Okay, sorry. I
It's all
don't want to
right.
bore
We're
our
good.
listeners with like I've said this before. It's a George Washington slept here mansion, and
Okay.
when I was last in New York, we had a chance to go visit it for a couple of hours before they closed, and again, it was this house that was built during the Revolutionary War, and it was owned by Morris. Last name was Morris, and I don't know I can't remember what he was doing, but he was sympathizers for the British, and of course he skedaddled,
Mhm.
and the house was left open, and then Washington took it over for his headquarters for about 5 weeks. Anyway, it's this
Okay.
old.
Actually, you did
I did mention
tell the
this, but
story.
I did tell this story. Sorry, thank you.
Sorry, listener.
Sorry, everybody. You're talking to two older guys who are like, "Dude, did I tell you that story?" Anyway, that's not the story I want to tell you about. But like way back in the '80s, somehow I got a job to photograph in there
Mm.
for postcards and stuff, and yeah, and I couldn't use lights in there. Either because I didn't have them or we weren't allowed to use them, and so I had to use available light and I can't remember if I used a PC lens to correct some of because I was photographing in the rooms. So, and I actually had to photograph a painting as well. So because they wanted to make a reproduction postcard of the painting of the widow Jumel, Morris Jumel. Yeah, Jumel, the woman who owned it after a while. But anyway, it's like I love photographing those old places and those old rooms.
Mm.
They have them in the Met Museum. I don't remember if we went to them and saw any of them when we were at the Met, but they have these sort of old recreated rooms from like the 1800s, 1700s with all the flourish and all that kind of stuff. And I
Mm.
used to think those were very stodgy rooms when I was a kid. And now I look at them like, I mean, not that I would want to live in one, but
No.
there's just so much to look at. And I just love taking pictures of them because you sit there and you can dive into the picture and just look at all the
Yeah,
details
all
and
the
stuff. So,
details. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
But anyway, so what have you been up to? This is
Made
gonna be
a
one of those shows that
flying.
let's
Yeah.
well, actually, before we go into that, our
Yes.
discussion with Ben was I
Yes.
want to just sort of that was great, wasn't it? It
It was great.
was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I could see
I
us
had
both spending time with him and walking the
yeah,
streets of
yeah,
small town. And yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and I hope he is able to stop by if he comes through the neck of the woods up here in Nebraska. It'd be nice to see him. What I was going to mention was I did end up buying his book
Okay.
because you and I we have both had a review PDF of it,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to talk about the book for a second
Okay.
because first of all, it's smaller than I expected for some reason. I don't.
Okay.
It's not too small. I actually think it's the perfect size for this, but I had some
Yeah.
idea that it was a larger book, and it's not. It's just the right. It's I don't know. It's like almost composition notebook size or something like that. So
Oh,
it's just
okay.
the right size. Yeah, and it's got one of these. He's got one of these bindings. It's not a typical book binding. It's an open binding, so you actually can see the signatures, the pages, and it's glued. It's just a glued binding, and you can see it. It's transparent. And what that does for those of you who don't know what a binding like this does, is it allows the book to lay flat. And it's not one of these kind of weird photo books that you see that has this lay flat kind of thing. It's like a regular book, but it lays flat perfectly, right? So the pages aren't curled, and he doesn't. I don't recall him having any pictures that were double pages. I think each one is on a page on its own. But
Mhm.
if there were double page spreads, the book would, you'd be able to see the entire picture without having something,
So there's no
in the middle.
trough, really. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing in the middle. And I did want to say that the pictures that we were looking at in the PDF, to me, there was something about the color that the palette they used that was something a little bit, I don't know, a little too vibrant in the
Okay.
PDF,
Too like
but in
postcardy, I think, kind of like
or
the way
something
the
like that. But
skies were. Yeah,
I knew
something.
that wasn't. I was thinking that couldn't be the way the pictures were actually, looking because in
Okay.
print, the color came down a bit, and I thought it
Oh,
worked much better. And of course, that's the difference between transmitted light and reflected light.
exactly. Yeah.
And the pictures look great in the book. They're like, I mean, I can
Mhm.
imagine his prints that he makes for people to buy are fantastic because I think this subject matter really is meant for reflected light reviewing, but I mean, obviously he made it on a computer, right? He's digital and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And that's a transmitted light situation. But I
But he's
think the stuff,
working with the publisher and to
yeah,
make it
yeah.
optimize it for the media that it's going to be in.
Yeah, yeah, and so this is kind of this. I mean, maybe I don't know. We can table this for another topic or something like that. But that idea between transmitted light, reflected light,
Mm,
which is also what we used to have when we were photographing with transparency film or slide film.
mhm.
Because in order for you to view that, you had there was several ways you could view it. You could print it, you could project it, or you could look at it on a light box. And a
Yeah.
light box is very similar to how we see things on a computer, but projected is reflected light in a different way. I mean, it's because it's all based on the surface that you're projecting on. And then a book is
Mhm.
also something else. But anyway, we sort of had those similar kind of issues that we're having with digital now. And I'm not saying it's an issue, it's just a different, but
It's just a
there's a different
difference.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a different experience to see something in a book. And I'm still kind of like, I don't know. I think pictures that are worth spending time on are probably worth printing, But and let's pause that for a minute because I want to talk about printing in a minute, but I want to hear what you had to do. So anyway, just wanted to say that about
Um,
Ben.
yeah, my nephew got married in Saskatchewan. It's about a 7-hour drive east of here and close to where I grew up. And I lived in the city of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I lived there for about a year in the second grade. And so I drove my son around, who's 28 now, the old neighborhood and all that kind of stuff. Went to my nephew's wedding. It was in the little downtown area, kind of a semi-industrial area. They had this kind of wedding venue thing. And it was a nice crowd. And it's funny because in a lot of ways, getting to take the pictures started in a kind of awkward way, the same way it did with the last wedding I shot in June, which was like,
Oh,
got ambushed. Wasn't quite
are
that
you the
bad. The day before,
photographer?
yeah, you want to take pictures of everybody now? It wasn't quite like that. It was like the day before I left, my brother, my nephew's dad, clearly said, "Are you
Mhm.
bringing a camera?" And I'm like, okay, this is gonna get.
Oh, oh, that's
So I said, well, actually, I
bring in a
travel with
camera.
three. So I'm like, I'm a little
Oof.
passive aggressive there. So
Mhm,
that, he knows, we're just like, we travel with three, and I didn't, basically, I don't want to do the ceremony or anything like that. I'm not really looking for a gig, and I'm being all kind of defensive about it, whatever. But it's my nephew, right?
mhm,
So I floated the idea of, I'm a street photographer who just happens to be at a wedding, and I kind of learned from my experience in June. Why don't I just bring that ethos to once all the speeches and all that stuff is done, and everybody's getting up and taking pictures with their phone in those circumstances anyway.
mhm,
I'm not gonna really offer anything, and I'm not shooting in color, so I'll just get once everything's settled down and the party starts, and they're younger, they're in their mid late 20s, and it was a good crowd, there was a lot of energy, and it was funny, and people behaved. It was like one of the better weddings I've ever been to. So I just went around and the street ethos plus, and I think I had a saying from the last wedding, which was, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Right? It's just, you're getting after a lot of the people, a lot of them you don't know. And it's like, who is this guy that's just going around taking pictures of everything? And so it was a very dim venue as things go. So ISO values
mhm.
are really high, cameras wide open. If the shutter was going to drag and people were in motion, they were going to blur. Fine, that's fine. They're dancing. I like the kind of shakiness of 25th or 30th of a second when people are spinning around, and
Mhm.
try to capture all that, and I think it worked pretty well. I did send you a link to a working album of,
Yeah.
I ponder and shoots, take some pictures back, put other ones in, and give myself a week to kind of live with it until I send the link for my album to the bride for her to share or do whatever she wants to with.
Was there
And
an official photographer?
yes, there was earlier in the afternoon. They did formals because they didn't want to take, and this couple would kind of really know what they're doing. He's a computer science major, and I think he's going to end up being a computer science prof, which is an
A what?
interesting way to live.
Professor?
Yeah, I think a professor. He wants
Oh,
to be a
prof.
professor.
Okay.
Professor,
Yeah.
yeah. And she's an engineer, and she works for the city. So
Oh.
and so there was lots of Star Trek jokes and Lego Star Wars and like all kinds of, like, I was like, they did a Jeopardy game with their
There are
histories, and
people. Yeah,
they're
yeah.
there, yeah, and I'm like, I am comfortable. I'm just gonna undo my tie, like, come on,
Oh, let 'em
let's
loose, yeah.
rock. So yeah, it was great fun, and yeah, so I just was completely untethered. I mean, people were kind of looking at me like, this guy is really busy doing this stuff. He's getting everything. And I went outside, people sitting on the steps, vaping and smoking cigars. And then the other people and the grandmothers, behind the bar getting the whiskey.
Mhm.
That was the one grandmother who did that. And just these little moments. So I'm about halfway through editing, and I expect of the whatever hundreds of frames that I shot there, expect album of like maybe 40 or 50 images.
Hmm.
And yeah, and that's about my hit rate. So
Are you happy with what you got?
I'm happy with, yeah, with the volume of the hits that I got, I
Mhm,
think. And like, again, two things instructed this. One was the previous wedding where, okay, I can use the street ethos when I'm shooting, and I don't feel like I have to be formal. And I told the couple that I'm not going to get everybody. Like, I'm not. There isn't. Every week. Do you have this relative and this relative and this friend and this friend
right,
and all that
right,
kind of
mm,
stuff? I told them it wasn't going to be like that because you already have those pictures. It's just going to be about what happens. Like, imagine a street photographer at your wedding, and your friend Mel, actually, there was a bit of, if you invite Mel to your wedding, you're going to get his
mhm.
pictures, right? And I wanted to go, well, if you're going to invite Ward to your wedding, you're going to get his thing. Now that I think I have the confidence to say that, like, and just
And
work the way I want to work.
let me ask why you chose not to use Flash, how come?
I did shoot a couple of frames with flash.
Oh, you did?
Um,
Okay.
but and it's one of my weaknesses, I think, when I shoot is I don't watch the backgrounds as much as where we were talking about our friend Mark Ryerson, who's like,
Mhm.
he can dissect the whole frame in the instant that he takes a picture. I can't do that. And I just didn't like the shadows thrown behind
Yeah.
in that smaller venue. And I did a couple of images. Like there's a picture of the bride standing talking to another member of the wedding party. And the picture is really about, and it's in the album, it's really about the dress, right? And she's smiling and she's talking to this guy. And I got the tones out of it. Like I just processed in the camera. I just used to,
Mhm.
did the post processing in the camera and sent it to the phone and had a look at it. Like, okay, so it is dim here, but if I shoot it ISO 3200 or 6400, I can get those tones up the way I would want them to appear in the album. And like, okay, as long as I'm not completely off on the exposure, I can get this kind of soft, arty look about it. There's a softness, a graininess, and a formality in these, I think, in these pictures that
Mm.
it's really starting to gel. Like I'm really starting to feel it in this
Mm.
particular thing because I'd kind of poured over the last wedding that I did and like, what is it that I'm really trying to say here? And then this was like, I really have a much better idea of what I think I can capture and what I'm going to say in the compositions and the chaos of the dancing and stuff. I'm like, I just relax and, you know, kind of be myself when I'm shooting. So it felt really good to shoot that
Mhm.
because I didn't feel like I was stepping on anybody's toes. There was a crowd that didn't mind being photographed and actually I think wanted to be photographed. I mean, second only to maybe Pride in that way. So I'm happy with what it came out of it.
So
So
it seems like you're setting yourself up to do more. I mean, you've done 2 already, and you
well
seem to be I
I'm gonna
mean,
send a little mini rant to the bride saying if people are asking, no, I'm not a wedding photographer, and no, I won't do what people might expect. I mean, I could. I mean,
well, it sounds like, like, I don't know if this is an actual business or something like that, but, usually when a wedding happens, they hire one photographer, and the photographer might have helpers
yeah,
doing things. And I always thought it would be kinda cool to, like, do a wedding business with, like, called Second Shooter where, like,
yeah,
I'm the guy doing what you're doing, right?
yeah,
And the person who works for me is doing all the formal stuff and all the other things,
yeah,
or 2 other people, and I'm the one walking around doing the kinda stuff you're doing, but I'm the
yeah,
one in charge, because I don't
yeah,
like to do any of that formal stuff at
yeah.
all, and it makes me nervous as hell just
Yeah,
because
and it
"Did
was
you get this one?"
I think it was kind of perfect. Like the weekend flew by. I slept well before, you know, when we
Yeah,
got in and did
'cause
the
we're talking
thing,
about
and then
a low stress
yeah,
environment,
and
right?
like and my nephew comes over and says, you know, Uncle Ward, you can shoot as much as you want. And I said, yeah,
Yeah,
yes, I will. It's that
okay.
don't worry.
Well, no,
So
if you get yourself in another be interesting if someone, like, said to you, "Would you come and do our reception or the stuff like you did at your nephew's wedding, but we'll have another photographer there to do all the formals." Like, would you do that?
yeah.
Like
Oh, I think I would. Yeah,
yeah.
if they see an album of the kind of work that I do
Right,
and
right,
they
ahead
know
of
what
time,
I
yeah.
do and what I don't do, like this is my thing. Yeah, I could do that.
No, I'm saying, would you do it? I mean, is it what
Mm.
I know
Well,
you
you're
said
asking me. I
you
hadn't
can
really
do
thought
it.
of I can do it. Yeah.
I know you can do it.
I don't know.
Yeah, alright.
I've just been doing it with people I know, I guess. Forget.
That's how a lot of things start, though, by word of mouth, if,
Yeah.
these people come to some other couple that's there planning to get married, and they see your pictures because you shot them, and but you're in a perfect position to say, well, this is the deal. Like, you got to get
Yeah.
someone, you got to hire someone to do the formals and stuff like that, and I'm going to do all the rest of the stuff the way I do it.
Yeah.
And whether or not they pay you, I like that's a whole other thing. But I mean, I wouldn't do it for free.
Mm.
But
No. No.
but anyway. Well, that's pretty cool. I like being a guest at a wedding for that exact same reason because there's no pressure. It's like,
Yeah.
and I might bring my camera with me. And if anything, I might take pictures that I can use maybe more portfolio or something like that, as
Yeah.
for exactly the reasons that you're talking about. So cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Just
I
one
was
little
looking at.
technical bit too
Oh,
that I
go
learned
ahead.
from
Yeah.
Stampede was that shooting the 23 and the 50. I shot as many. This is an APS-C camera, so Fuji cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So Fuji X cameras. So I shot as many on the 50 as I did on the 23, which surprised me because usually I would do the longer lens for something else, but I'm sitting at a table shooting across at somebody else. It's 25, 30 feet away and I can get them
Right.
all in the frame. Right. So
Yeah.
it worked
So
really
you have a
well.
little bit of telephoto. So you've got a portrait lens and you've got a wide angle or
Yeah.
semi-wide
And there are
angle.
a few portraits in there. In fact, there was a sequence. Actually, in the album, there's a sequence of
Yeah.
portraits of my mother and the celebrant and one of the bridesmaids, the bride's youngest sister.
Yeah.
And they're all
That's
it's
cool.
all non-traditional pose. They weren't posed. They just caught them.
I've had some photo adventures.
So Antonio, sorry, I phased. I didn't just cloak. I phased. So Antonio,
Yeah.
what's been going on with you, man? You sent me an album. Is that what you're going to talk about,
I sent you a
or
couple of
other stuff?
albums, but I'll talk about
Yeah.
one album that was an actual job. Was I got to photograph the Huskers flag line women and young man. There was 33 women and one man on this team, on this group of color guard. And it's because Angie's daughter is she's a captain on the flag line, and I'm not sure how all the ranks and stuff work. So forgive me for anybody who's listening. I don't know all the details, and I was probably told a bunch of times, but it's so
like
alien to me, I
absorb.
can't remember. But anyway, the daughter helped me get the job to photograph them. They wanted to have a professional photographer photograph them, and I was like, "Yeah, I've play a professional photographer on television sometimes,
Yeah. And on a podcast."
On a podcast, I pretend." And it was basically going to Memorial Stadium the day after a Husker game, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And 34 people were there. And I photographed them from about 7 in the morning until about 12:30 or 1 in the afternoon in an assembly line kind of thing, which was it. So let me see how to sum this up without going into too much detail. First of all, I've never done a job like this. I've photographed people, right? But I haven't done that in a long time. And I've certainly never done something like this at this scale, just in terms of numbers. And, I'm sure it's typical if you're doing, I don't know, like other photographers do this, right? Photographing teams or, senior portraits or whatever. I just never done this,
Yeah.
1 or 2 or 3 people at the most or something like that. Anyway, we started early and we were doing Angie helped me. It was great to have an assistant. If she wasn't there, it would have, there's no way I could have done this. There's just absolutely no way.
And she had a
So,
photography business too. Like she knows the ins and outs and what the priorities are. Yeah.
Yeah. So being that this was my, first time doing this and she was also liaison, but she knew some of the girls there as well. I mean, her daughter's there too, but anyway, it worked. We worked well as a team, which was great. The first pictures I took early in the morning were all the like group pictures. And then we moved into the individual pictures and Angie had a good idea of like making a sort of a catalog of poses, right? I had pictures from the previous year and we found like eight different poses and I printed them and put them in little, plastic sheets and we handed them out to everybody. Oh no, was it 8? It was 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it was 8. 4. And I printed them out and we gave them to all the flag line folks and said, you got to pick 3. 3 of these poses, right? So that we weren't standing there waiting for someone to feel, I don't know what I want to do, right? So they went around and it was boom, 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 boom. After
grind them through. Cool.
Yeah, and I had made sure that I had like taken a ton of ibuprofen ahead of time, which really made a difference because I am just not used to like
Reloading. Yeah.
preload. Like I didn't, my stamina was, yeah, wow. Anyway, what was I going to say? So yeah, it took that much time to photograph all of them. I
Yeah.
remember I was so tired at some point. I actually had to take 5 minutes. I was like, I got to take a break for 5 minutes, which actually made a
Yeah.
big difference. By the way, if
Oh,
you're doing a
yeah.
job like this, make sure you take short breaks. Is like that
Okay.
little bit of energy you get from like a 5 minute break. It was like it was gold. But anyway,
The wedding I had Prosecco and
Prosecco is good if you
Mexican
get.
food. Yeah. I'm just going to sit over here
Yeah,
for a bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the middle of as the sun started coming up. It was like mixed, partly cloudy, but it started getting hot on that field, and the field is turf, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it was starting to get a little toasty there. And anyway, boy, does that tire you out. In fact, the next day I was totally wiped. I could not do anything the next day.
Mm.
That being said, by as I'm photographing, the next girl comes up and we say, "What number are you?" She goes, "Oh, I'm number 12." I'm like, "Oh, no,
Oh,
I got 20,
no.
I got 23 more to go or 22 more to go." It's like one of those things like I probably shouldn't have even asked because like,
Yeah.
thinking like, wait, I got to do this 22 more times. Anyway, it was great. The reason why it was great is because I haven't done this before at this scale. It was also great to be a photographer again in the sense of
Yeah.
like, you know,
Stay in the
this is photography.
zone, compose the
Stay in the zone.
thing,
Yeah, compose the thing.
timing.
Yeah, everything like that. And they did a really good job of like doing the poses and stuff.
And there's
What I
dynamic,
decided,
like some of the poses are dynamic, right? There's actually motion like going
there's
on in the
motion in it. There
frame.
was one pose that I hated. I'm sorry to say this. It was this photograph. It was this pose where they're sort of waving a flag underneath the camera lens. And we had to do it in such a way that we had to kind of fake it a little bit. I just didn't like the way the frame was divided between the flag and the
Oh,
person
take
in the
up a lot of the
background.
frame. I see. And they're small
Yeah, and
behind the flag.
yeah, and I had to photograph. So let me get to this. I decided to photograph the entire thing with my GFX 50. So medium format. I went medium format all the way on this. I did
Okay.
bring a backup APS-C camera because I was thinking like, well, if things go haywire,
Hmm.
I can do the stuff with this. But I really wanted to have nice skin tones. I wanted nice gradations.
Yeah.
And I would say that camera did a really, really good job. I had a couple of glitches with it, and that's probably on me, but maybe it didn't feel like it was me. I was using an 80 millimeter, so that's what is that? The equivalent of like a 65 millimeter, more or
65.
less,
Yeah.
on a
Something
full
like that.
frame.
Yeah.
It was really nice to
Mild
soften the
telephoto.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
Mild telephoto is beautiful on some of the stuff, and it had some trouble focusing sometimes on like it ended up back focusing a couple of times on the
Okay.
background, and I had to do some. Also, my fault was that I didn't always because we were in this assembly line, and so I didn't always
Hmm.
check the back of the camera after every shot,
Yeah.
which I should have done. I
Mm.
did check them a lot, but sometimes I didn't. And usually when I didn't, like, because I was looking at the back of the screen and it looked sharp. Of course, when I zoomed in, it wasn't sharp.
Mm.
I was actually realizing I probably should have shot manual focus on that, but I was really trying to avoid doing a lot of manual stuff because of just the
Yeah.
timing
Yeah.
of things. But I was reminded a couple of days ago with a photographer friend of mine, like, if you're who's photographing dancing shots of dancers that
Hmm.
that the autofocus when it misses, it can miss really bad, which is what
Yeah.
happened with me. If you're manually focusing, especially with action, which I probably could have done, then you won't even if they move, if you've got enough depth of field, if you miss by a little bit, you'll be in the ballpark.
Hmm.
So I think that was my learning, is that if I'm doing some action shots like that where, I can't really count on the autofocus to be perfect, or it's giving me some problems
Right.
like this 80 millimeter was doing, then switching to manual would have been much better. And so I learned that. I like, okay, next time I will do that. For all the other shots, like they were perfect. And I was shooting a 35 to 70. So that's the GFX's sort of kit lens that
Okay.
came with the camera. It performed beautifully. It
Mm.
seems like it's a kit lens. It feels plasticky and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I brought a series of other lenses with me as well, but I just stuck with the 80 and the 30 and the 35 to 70.
Nice.
And those two did perfectly. In fact, if I would have shot the 80 for the entire job, if I could have, there was just scenarios where I had to be a little too close and I couldn't,
Right.
I needed that wide angle and stuff. But the only other problem is that the GFX does not have a lot of frames per second. So doing action shots were a little trickier. So I
Yeah.
had to start paying attention to timing and stuff like that. And like, they throw a flag in the air, I time it, click, throw a, one of those
Screen
parade
blacks
guns.
out on the GFX 50.
No,
EVF?
doesn't.
No. Okay.
Nope, doesn't. No, you got to see everything. Wait,
Okay.
you know what? Hang on. You know what? I don't remember. Do I have it here? I have it here.
It
I
doesn't
just
matter.
don't
I
know.
was just like, because if you're
I
shooting,
think it. No,
think of my
maybe it
dad's
does.
old SLR, and the mirror would go up and stay up. I was like,
Well, you know what? I have the pic. I have the camera set on review, so I can see the picture after a shot.
Mhm.
So, but it cycles really fast. So
Yeah.
it may be. I'm thinking that that's what it's the mirror is closing, but there's no mirror in that thing.
No,
To
no.
yeah. So anyway, so I shot 1,500 pictures,
Okay.
which I haven't done in a long time. I almost ran out of card space, which was interesting. I would have taken the cards from my other camera that I brought with me.
Yeah.
I was very close. I was getting a little nervous at about 11 o'clock, 11:30. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Mhm.
But we did fine. And I got the files back. What I did was, first of all, they were not in a rush for the pictures, which is great because like when I immediately started looking at them, I really didn't want to look at them. And
No.
part of me said to myself, in whatever fit of weirdness I was in, like I hated the
Yeah.
pictures. Like I hated them.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
hated them. And I didn't want to like them. I wasn't proud of them at all or something like that. And I think that just comes from, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is, I don't know. Do you ever have that kind of
Yeah, you have that
experience?
feeling when you're doing something for somebody and that you're kind of freewheeling creativity aspect of the real you, and it is really kind of pinned down by it's fine to be hemmed in by different aspects of the boundaries of the creativity or situation that you're in, but sometimes it's so oppressive, like you got to do this and this and this, and you got to do like
Right.
it's like you're more like you're ticking off boxes than you are
Yeah.
creating stuff.
Yeah. I felt that, as well as, even though I know technically they were fine, I was looking at them and they looked great. I hated them. And so I didn't touch them for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. I wasn't
Mhm.
nobody was in a rush to get them. I didn't wanna wait too long, but I waited, maybe, yeah, about certainly into the next week. I photographed them on a Sunday, and I think I started looking at them on a Friday or something.
Yeah.
And I realized that gap of time, I needed that gap of
Mhm.
time because I came back to the pictures. Now, they're not my style of pictures. I'm doing a job, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm doing these sort of, poses where they're sitting on the grass, and these are all sort of like the typical things that they've had photographed over the years. So I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything new here. I'm
No.
just doing my version, and hopefully I'm doing it, in some way nicer. But and so it's not something that I'm like, oh, this is my stuff, but it's a job. And, like you said, I'm bound by these, which actually can be useful, right? Like if I'm bound by these sort of pre-existing kind of poses and styles
Yeah.
already, then if I just fit myself into that, that's fine. As long as I do a good job, maybe I can get it done
Yeah.
I could do it, I get called up again, right? And
Mhm.
work is work, right?
Mhm.
So when I came back to them though, I really liked them.
Mhm.
And so that's when I could really sit down and look at them and then start to do the culling that I initially did, which I was like, I think got rid of 1,100 pictures
Mhm.
altogether. I think I was left with 4 or 500, and then whittled those down to 3 per person, right? So
Right?
3 of the ones, and I kind of try to remember which poses no, I remember that they only had 3 poses
You
that I
only had
shot.
3
So
poses, so as
they only
long
had
as
3
you could
poses.
tell
So
the subjects from each other, you could.
yeah, and then everyone was done in order. So like it was very easy to go through. And then, using Lightroom, which I haven't done in this kind of process in a long time, was fantastic. Going through the
Did you copy
culling was,
develop settings? I do that a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Oh, well,
actually here's what I did. Here this was fun, which
Lightroom geek. So the
yeah,
Lightroom
Lightroom
people.
yeah. Woo, 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 woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Alert.
those people Lightroom a regular version of Lightroom, meaning classic, I was doing all the importing, sorting, right, getting all that stuff together. And then what I decided to do is take a handful of pictures, usually one from each kind of scenario that I was doing. And then I put them in a gallery, which I then synchronized to Lightroom CC or Lightroom Cloud version or whatever the hell it's
Okay.
called, right?
Yeah. Creative
Because
Cloud. Yeah.
Creative Cloud, but they just call it Lightroom. Anyway, because Lightroom Classic does not have this Lightroom community attached to it, right? It's just on the desktop and it's not,
Yeah.
it only has one synchronization feature, which you can synchronize your Creative Cloud album with your desktop, with
All right.
your classic album, blah, blah, blah. So the reason is because I like Lightroom. I'm getting to like Lightroom
Just Lightroom.
CC
Yeah.
better than the desktop version. And why? Because there's this community aspect to it. So what I've been doing was I took those pictures and I took a handful and brought them into Lightroom Creative Cloud, and then I used some of the presets that I found in the community because they have these recommended presets in that, and they're scanning the picture somehow and looking at the subject matter. And then they're going through the community presets to see which ones fit. And so I was looking at a few that gave me some ideas for how to process the pictures. And so when I did that, I applied the presets, I tweaked them a little bit, and I did it to
Well,
all these sort of sample pictures. And then those pictures automatically synchronized back to the desktop
oh,
version.
okay.
And then I could copy and paste the
Develop
processing
settings.
onto the similar style pictures. So like all the group
Yeah.
pictures that were shot early in the morning, I could apply a similar preset, and then I would have to go in and tweak each one, right? But the workflow was a lot simpler. I mean, it did take like 2 days of processing and stuff. Lightroom handled it with aplomb, so classic, I should
Cool.
say, with the generative fill for like, oh, remember I mentioned that it was the day after a Huskers game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course behind all the shots, many of the shots, they're steam blasting the stands. So these
Yeah.
guys are walking by with these steam blasters. Now luckily I've got a shallow depth of field with the 80 millimeter, but you can still see some guy with
Yeah.
a blue shirt, walking through.
Yeah.
I gotta say, generative fill, for retouching was like that's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing, I mean, I'm so tired of cloning and, looking for things and stuff like that, that because of this workflow and I had so many pictures to go through,
Mm-hmm.
it just made things that much easier. And I had not processed pictures like this in this amount with this much retouching in a very long time. And I remember it being hell when I
Mm-hmm.
last did it, which is probably like a decade ago or something like that, or maybe even
Yeah.
more when I was doing some bulk stuff. So so yes, some people who are listening to the show are like their wedding photographers are doing this, like this is old news to them.
Yeah.
But, I would not shy away from another job like this because of the post-processing now.
Right.
And I have no shame for finding, presets that are in the community where people have already photographed this stuff and applied some stuff. I mean, I think they're
Mm-hmm.
they're great starting things. I mean, I love to do my own processing of my own pictures.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't see any problems with going in and seeing what other people have done and getting suggestions for how the pictures should look. And when, I'm not getting paid that much for this job in the sense of I've charged each, I'm not going to say how much I charge, but like the
Yeah.
whole day I'm getting a little chunk of change, not a lot, but each
Yeah.
person I did reasonably cost because they're students, right? And
Yeah.
they only have so much money. And I'm also doing it because I haven't done this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this gets me maybe in the good favors for like the school. It'd be really great to do some other work for the school as a photographer. So anyway, it took a little bit of, but I really wanted to get through this as fast as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
the Lightroom situation I came up with worked pretty well. It was really nice to be able to take advantage of some of the really good tools that are in Lightroom for doing things like this. Especially, I
Mm-hmm.
wish Lightroom Desktop though had this access to the community presets because it would have
Right.
saved me this time of having to do have two versions of Lightroom open, which to me is like lunatic.
Yeah.
Adobe, if you're listening to this, make up your minds. Get one system and just leave it and like join them together, right?
Yeah.
I prefer Lightroom CC's interface, by the way, and I use that a lot on my phone and whatnot. I think it's fantastic. I think it's an awesome program. The classic version, I'm getting a little tired of the way the interface looks and yada yada yada.
And
So anyway,
moving the pointer back and forth from one side of the
yes,
interface to the other, this
yes,
traversing, and yeah.
yeah, it's getting old these days. So
Yeah.
that being said, I was able to call out exactly 121 pictures, which covered 3 shots for every person plus a whole handful of each rank, that we did group shots of.
Mm-hmm.
And the clients are very happy.
Good.
Which is kind of what this is all about. And what I enjoyed about it again was this. I haven't been like this kind of photographer in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of, I don't know, good, it sort of tapped into some memories I've had of doing stuff like this before. So I really love photographing with people. I mean, there's an energy.
Oh, yeah.
And this just
I
we know this
mean,
from doing street photography.
I don't participate very much in social situations. I'm an introvert in that way. But when there's stuff going on and I am watching and I am like, watching, like, it reminds me of the baby who's sitting up on the car seat thing on a table somewhere with the bottle and just watching the world go by, and you can just see those eyes. The baby knows more than we do what's going on. Just that concentrated observation. It's like, that's the best.
That exists, and for me, also the interaction. I'm not so much of an introvert in that way. Like, I think I am, but when I get out onto the field, quote unquote, no pun intended, I become a different. I don't become a different person. Some part of my photographer personality really comes out, which I enjoy, and that's been dormant for a very long time. And it's
you could feel that, and it's familiar and good. That sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's so I used to get that when I would hire actors to do stock photography shoots, and that would become sort of a little big production. They would get like 3 or 4 actors on set with an assistant and art director and stuff like that. And like, I'm in charge of this whole thing, and there's an energy that comes between, like a collaboration between the subject and the camera, and that kind of feedback loop and energy is something that I didn't have a lot of that in this one. I mean, there's a little bit of it, because of the kind of style of the photography was and the job, but it was there, and it was there, and it only comes for me, it only comes when I photograph people. And so it's incentive for me to want to do more, like, I think that I'm shy sometimes with photographing people, like, I could never do it, senior portraits, or I'm not sure about weddings. Weddings is a whole thing unto itself, but
Unless you're doing what I'm doing, which is working out.
Yeah. Well, this kind of caliber things, I thought, well, no, I'm not good at. When I was looking at it, it's like, you know what? Not bad at it. I'm pretty good.
You know what you need to do. You're not like running around trying to figure out what you're doing, right? You know what? You get things lined up, and like, you have your assistant. You've been in that environment before.
Yeah.
And
And
you have subjects who I mean, the flag line, they're fit. They can move in ways, they can be directed,
right. They know what they're doing.
Great. Yeah.
That's like when you're photographing actors. I think actors are great for models because they know how to emote really well. Not saying models are bad, but actors do a really good job. And so, like, half the battle is already like on their side. Like, half the effort, I should say, not the battle, but half the effort is on their side. Like, you say, look, I need you to look like you're, just gone through a bad day at work, and boom, all of a sudden it comes up. It's like you don't really have to work for it. Anyway, that was really fun. And so the day before, there was a parade in the leading up to the Memorial Stadium, and the homecoming parade. And so it was very I've never been to a homecoming parade before, but it was wonderful. Like, old cars and the
Mm.
homecoming kids, and then the tractors, and then the Clydesdales were here. The
Oh,
Budweiser
the
Clydesdales
Budweiser
were here.
Clydesdales, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So this whole thing was, and I felt very open to like stepping out into the middle of this parade with my X100, taking pictures. And I was like, oh yeah. And then like I'm into tractors for some reason. There was all these old tractors. So I
Yeah.
like stuck myself out into the road, and then the guys who were driving the tractors would start posing for me, and I
Put,
was
put, put,
shooting
put,
them.
put, put, put,
Yeah.
put. Yeah. Yeah.
and and we kept doing this, and I would wave to them every time. And then this old cop car came by, like something that would be in like Smokey and the Bandit, like some old Ford,
Okay.
some old
Yeah.
Ford. And I photographed the cops in there, and I'm wearing a very loud shirt and very bright sneakers, so I look kind of the
Yeah.
part and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that sort of fed into this. Oh well, this wasn't. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead here because this was the day before I went to my first Huskers game at
Oh,
Memorial
okay.
Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right, so that was Friday. I went to the Husker games on Saturday, and so this parade came ahead of time. So really, I think I was still on my jazzed up experience from photographing the flag line, and so it felt
Mhm.
very like I could get out into the middle of these things. And I'm not hiding who I am. I'm a photographer. I got a camera
Yeah.
around my neck, crouching down, which most people don't do. Like a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
stand up in different ways. And like, I think people could see
Yeah.
that I was a photographer. One guy actually handed me a card. Oh, shoot. I got to find it. I think I took a picture of it because I took a picture of his old like 50s Plymouth. So as he was
Mm.
turning the corner, he stopped and he reached out, and I ran up to him and he gave me his card. He goes, "Send me a picture." I got to do that. I just remembered that. I got to send this guy a picture of his Plymouth. Anyway, so yeah, so I went to a Huskers game, and I decided to do what I don't know if we talked about this, but I
Mm.
what the Huskers game was. We were going to see it, so we had seats, but leading up to it was all this activity ahead of time, and I decided to hit that as street photography.
Mhm.
So I brought my X, what is it? The X Pro 3, which I actually am in love with for street photography now.
Mm.
That and a 16 millimeter, which I'm also in love with because
Mm.
that's a 28 millimeter, a 24 millimeter wide.
24. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just was like a pig in mud. It was great. I didn't go full guns street. I mean, I
Mm.
I I could have shot more, but I photographed a lot,
Mm.
and I'm pretty happy with the results. So that stuff is still sort of. I mean, I showed
Yeah.
our
Yeah. I saw a
collective. I
few. Yeah.
put the stuff up there, and I haven't posted it up on my website yet or done a blog because I need to narrow it down. I need to think
Mm.
certain pictures I don't want to sort of make public in a way. I'm sort of still feeling out the I don't know, the vibe or something like that here. It's a smaller community, so I don't want to. I think I treated all my subjects with respect, but some people might not see that, and so
Mhm.
I'm just, I'm sitting on them for a little while before I start posting them on, on any kind of social media or something like that. But tons of pictures, man. Photographed tons of stuff,
Cool.
and pretty happy with it, pretty happy with and I photographed all black and white at the Huskers game. I mean, that was all just
Mhm.
black and white because everybody's wearing red.
Yeah. Red and white. So
So
your flag
everybody,
line pictures is sort of like you got the green turf, you got the red, and you got the white, and you have a skin tone. And oh, here's another one. It's red
right.
and white and
But
green and
at the
skin tone.
Huskers game, everything is red. Like everybody's wearing red shirts, right? It's like
Yeah.
go big red. Everybody's wearing red hats or something. Like when you look out at the field, if I photograph some stuff with my phone, it's just like a sea of red. And then that first touchdown happened, and all of a sudden there was like a million red balloons went into the sky. You know? And the Huskers won, by the way,
Oh, good.
38-27, I think. So
Okay.
or 27 to
It's
38,
pretty high
38,
scoring, I
37. It was
guess.
pretty high
It's
score. Yes.
college.
Yeah. 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 But it was a good game. And it was a lot of fun. I haven't my first football game since I went to like the Giants Redskins game a zillion years ago, but I was on the 50-yard line then.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good game. That was sort of a classic game, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it did get me thinking about, boy, it would be great to photograph on the field during a game.
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
the
That's a
couple
dream
things
of mine is to do football from the sidelines. Yeah.
I have no like, I know how the game is played, but, like, I've never done like that. I can imagine I would mess up a lot. Also,
And
I
you
don't
could
have a
get
fast
tackled too.
I could get tackled. It's like, "Well, wait a minute, let me get this shot. Whoa, wait, he's coming at me."
I like I'm there for the glitz, but also the danger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't have a very fast my zoom lenses are not, they're not 2.8s or 5.6s.
Yeah.
They're up there in the aperture, but I mean, so what? With a high ISO, I could probably do some decent shots. Anyway, maybe I would love to just get on the field, maybe not as an official person, but just like it would be great to get stuff. So
Get rent a like a 200 F2 or whatever. Just, that'd be fun.
oh, the Fuji one, yeah.
Yeah.
Fuji, isn't it, they didn't they come up with a 300? Isn't there a 300
They
now?
may have, I don't remember. Yeah.
I know the 200 exists, that 200, that white lens, but I think there's a
I held
300
that.
now.
It's beautiful. I would want one, but I don't shoot sports enough. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I would only, yeah, it wouldn't, but anyway, it'd be a lot of fun. It would be a blast to do that. So if anybody's listening and has it in on the Huskers, yeah, I shot the flag line. I did that well, respected
Yeah.
everybody, took
Yeah.
very good care of everything. And there was one last thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm dominating this last half
No,
here,
that's
but
fine. Man.
I also put up my first show here. It's a small show at St. Paul Methodist Church in Lincoln. So if anybody's in the area and you want to go, the month of October, my show's up there. It's all photographs of decided to do photographs of New York. So it's all photographs of I decided to put up images that of structures and buildings that were built around the Gilded Age. I realized when I looked at my New York collection of work, I've got a lot of like, the Brooklyn Bridge and the what we call it, the New York Library. Now, not exactly Gilded Age time, but
Okay.
in that time period, in those
Mhm.
like 30 or 40 years around the Gilded Age at the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. And so I decided to do all those in very small prints, small frames that I had bought during a Prime Day sale. Not incredibly, nice frames. Actually, they were light plastic, beautiful looking frames with
Mhm.
plexi, like a light thing of
Yeah.
plexi on it. So they're very light. And
Mm.
it worked with the venue that I was working at because I was using command hooks to hang them up. So they
Mhm.
couldn't be very heavy in the first place. And it's in this room called the Pain Parlor, which is
Okay. Pain.
Paine, named
The
after
surname, not the.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Payne, who actually shares the same birthday as I do, November 23rd.
Mm.
And one side of the wall is all verticals, the other side of the wall is all horizontals, and there's two color images of the Brooklyn Botanic Garden sandwiching the horizontal black and whites. So,
Nice.
and it's again, I've only been here less than 4 months, and so I've already had a couple of photo jobs, and now I have a show going up, and I got a class coming up next week that I'm teaching as part at this church as well.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
two part class on photography. I called it shucks, what did I call it? I forgot already. Oh wait, the art photography, the art of noticing,
Okay.
and right now, there's 30 people signed up for it, and so the more people that sign up for it, the more I have to tweak my show because I have to make sure that I do it in such a way. I only have an hour per class, so the first class is this Wednesday. This coming up Wednesday. We're recording on Thursday, so next Wednesday is the first class, and then the Wednesday after that is the second class. And I'm going to have a in between time where the students should go out and make photographs and then upload them to some website that is for parties, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And come back and I want to do self-reflection kind of work, like rather than doing critique.
Okay.
I'm hoping that people who show pictures, I'm going to probably show everybody's picture, but I want to have people to do sort of a self-reflection on the photographs they took, so that there is not a there's
You
no
did this wrong. You did this wrong. It's
yeah, there's none of that.
demoralizing. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if it isn't demoralizing, it's just like, that's more of like that's kind of more like a one-on-one kind of thing I'd wanna do, like,
Mhm.
when you're working with somebody over time and wanna hone them a little bit better, but I think for a group situation like this, having self-reflection is great because I think people can learn from each other about
Mhm.
what everybody else did while they're out in the world taking pictures with whether with their phone or their camera or
And
whatever
it's
they're
more
gonna be
about
using.
seeing than it is the craft of photography too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that I only have an hour for the,
Yeah.
initial class, like, I am not focusing anything on technical. I will have some practical tips. So
Mm.
I think people wanna have some practical things but it's really gonna be about, I love throwing around that phrase visual literacy about how to read a photograph,
Mhm.
and read a situation when you're about to take a picture, right? So I have some of my pictures and I've got some other people's pictures in the shots and stuff like that. So and I have this new thing where, the Minor White's quote about show me what something is, what else it is.
Yeah.
That
Don't
that
tell me
quote,
what it is, but what else it is. Yeah.
what else is, yeah, shit. Don't just photograph something for what I can't remember. Anyway, right off the top of my head. But I changed that a little bit. I use his quote, but I call it the secret identity of things. I said everything's got a secret identity.
Mm.
Right, and so I've got this picture of, like, one example is a photograph of a pepper, right? And then what's the secret identity of a pepper? Well, then I show
Weston's. Yeah.
Weston's pepper number 30.
Yeah.
It's like a pepper can be this, right? That's the secret identity of a pepper, right?
Mm.
It could be a stand-in for a human body. And I use that with kids. I use that in the 4-H class, and I
Mhm.
like that. I kinda like that as just a general phrasing of, like, how to look at something and, like, if you could figure out what its secret identity is. So I can
Mhm.
imagine people looking at things and saying, "What else can I what does this thing do in the middle of the night when it comes out with its cape on or something?"
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, this class it's a free class. So if anybody's in the Lincoln area who's listening to this, you can sign up, go to St. Paul's, Methodist Church's website. And there's, I think, a sign up there. Right now I've got 30 people, including myself. So it was 29 people. So it's gonna be a thing. So we'll see. I'm a
Yeah.
little nervous about that because I don't think I've had a class of 30 people yet. So we're getting bigger. Anyway, that's the long-winded way of saying I've done a lot of stuff in the
Yeah, you
past
have,
couple of
man.
weeks. Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it's very satisfying in some way. And I'm really happy to be using some of my equipment that's been sitting around, sort of idle for some time. So
Mhm.
it's nice to
Yeah, and
get
I
that.
had a good weekend too. I mean, yeah, getting more and more intimate with that gear and lessons that I learned this year on it. I mean, I think there's really been a big evolution on my end too. So that's good. It's all
Yeah,
good.
well, the only
Feels
way we
good.
learn it is to actually be using it, I think.
Yeah.
It's kinda nice to use some of the stuff under pressure so I can see what the limitations are. Like, now I know there's some issues with
Mm.
with the GFX camera. So, again, it's like stuff has been idle for way too long. And I mean idle in the sense of, like, I'm not saying it's earning its money back yet, but the it if I didn't have these tools, I think it would have been a little
You
bit more
were
of a
more
challenge.
nervous. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
the tools do help. I mean, like, especially now knowing, for instance, going back to Lightroom and at the flag line photo shooting, flag line photography. I don't want to say shooting anymore. I can't stand that phrase.
Mm.
At that job, when the people were in the background scouring the
Stands, the
seats after
seats.
the game, I didn't have to, yell at them and say, "Hey guys, can you wait a few minutes?" or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
just knowing that I'm going to erase them with ease using, you know, Lightroom's new feature, the AI feature. I didn't even have to worry about it. It didn't even concern me, you know.
Mhm.
And it's that kind of confidence, I think, that you know I haven't had in a while, in terms of, like, the gear is gonna work a certain way, and I have these great files, and the lenses are great, and the software is gonna do great, and I can tap into the resources of a community and get, good presets and good colors and stuff like that. Like, all that actually helps,
Mhm.
because when you know you got all this stuff behind you, then the worry, I think, during the actual session of taking pictures is just minimized,
Hmm.
And I mean, photographers have had that for a long time. Some photographers have had, have a great crew with them and they don't have to worry about a lot of things because everybody behind them is taking care of things. But if you're a one person band,
Hmm.
and you need all the help you can, and this is sort of an encouragement to like say, okay, well, now is probably a really good time to like, use all these tools for I don't know, for your own benefit in terms of like, don't worry about stuff.
Hmm.
These things are going to work out. You don't have to worry about, someone's, curl sticking out of the side of their head if you can't get it to, can't get it to fold back, just take a
Yeah,
picture of it and just, take 2 seconds and retouch it later and stuff. And it's not going to take that much time. Anyway, so yeah,
very cool.
it's been real. It's been a real kind of, and I don't have any prospects coming up. Like I don't have anything other than I don't know. I don't have any shoots or anything like that coming up. So it's been a little burst of energy, and now
Yeah,
we're back into as we're getting into the fall and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, yeah, well, definitely going to be a big slowdown for me unless there's something indoors. February we have international speed skating competition at the
Oh, you're
Dome,
gonna do that
and I
again?
haven't.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't shot it with the XS20, and it's a far. I mean, last two times I rented an XT3, which was not a very good sport camera at all.
Hmm.
But I've shot rodeo with this one and the timing and stuff, and kind of like the look of speed skaters. So both in groups and individually coming around corners and stuff.
Would this be the
And I think
first time you would photograph it with the lens I sold you with the 50 to 200? I'm
no, I
assuming you'd
have
be shooting
shot
that.
both times. I shot it with the 50 to 140. Actually, I rented, and I've
Oh,
never shot it with the 55 to 200. So that'll
I
be fun to
imagine
go
you'll.
further. I'll be able to be a little bit
Yeah.
further away, which I like some of the distant ones, especially when they're in there's like a scrum group, a qualifying group where they're all take off from the line at the same time. And there's interesting shapes. And if you shoot it, at ice level compressed, it's just this mass of people and heads up
Hmm.
and down and skates and legs all akimbo and stuff. And so it's a interesting dynamic thing. And the thing about speed skating, it's not like car racing where you really want to pan. It's like horses. You see a horse running, it can be in sharp focus, but your brain tells you that they're in motion. Where racing cars, they look like they're just parked, because there's nothing to
Yeah.
suggest speed there, right?
Right. Right.
And so if I put a little bit of blur, go down to
Mm,
125th or 60th and get a little bit of motion blur is fine. But you don't need to, just having all the details frozen, particularly in a group. And I haven't really been successful because of the XT3. So I think, I will try and get down closer to the ice, though, I don't want to be too close because then they're going 40 miles an hour, like it's like shooting auto racing in that respect.
mhm,
Like you don't need to be really, really close to them. You just want to be down at a level where you can
mm,
get them from the side or just straight on when they're at the finish or start finish, when they're starting the heat. But think about it. That's one thing that's going on. I think that I,
mhm.
I will definitely try to do. Yeah, I mean, you could go to a community hockey game or something. I don't know.
Oh, so
It's
you're looking for more action
Well,
stuff to
winter
do, huh?
sports, like, yeah, just
Yeah.
to keep my powder dry, whatever, just to
Yeah, yeah.
use this Access 20 as a sport platform because I like shooting sports and I don't do enough of it. And I'm calling myself a street photographer, which I am. That's where my passion really is. But there's something about capturing a instant of dynamic motion and humanity and all that kind of stuff
Mhm, mhm.
has
Yeah.
its appeal
Well,
too.
maybe I'll get a shot at doing that, as we start getting colder here, I can start to think about more inside projects to do, or, going back through the year's worth of work and looking at it and seeing what I can come up with. But we can come up with that. We can talk about that as we get
Yeah,
further into the winter.
yeah,
The weather's still good. We can still go out and shoot and stuff. So,
yeah,
all right. Wow. Well, it was wonderful catching up with you. I mean, it has been
yeah.
for us. It's been, I think, 3 weeks since we talked.
Something like
Maybe.
that. Yeah. Long time.
more or less. Yeah. So it's good. It really is good to catch up with you. And where are we finding you in the world these days?
You can find me. I'm glad you asked, by the way. You can find me on Vero, Twitter /X, and Blue Sky at Rosin Photo, at W Rosin Photo. Can't read. On Instagram, which is where I put most of my stuff, is Ward Rosin Fine Art. Facebook, you can find me at Ward Rosin Photo. And my website, which I just started putting up my galleries there for you to look at. Thanks, by the way, whoever's coming in and looking at what I've got there. Like, since I changed the way the layout is of the albums and the galleries there, I've been getting quite a few hits. Thanks for that, whoever you are. I'm at rosin.ca, rosin.ca. Mr. Antonio, where is it in the world that we can find you on the internet?
Yeah, well, hang on. I just clicked on I haven't looked at your site in a while. Yeah, it looks great. So,
and it's just, all I did was, I haven't changed the template or anything. I just created galleries. And maybe I'll put a wedding gallery in there.
Let's say put two more up so that you have an even number on the front screen, on the first screen. That being said, it does look good. Thanks for sharing it. Where am I these days? Blue Sky, at AM Rosario. Instagram, I'm starting to use a lot more. I think I'm going to be using it to try to get some work. So I'm posting up more of my stuff up there. And so look at AM Rosario Photo. Go to my website, amrosario.com. Which is really nice too. I like it. It makes me happy. Cool. I'm not embarrassed by it anymore. Facebook, I'm facebook.com Rosario Photo. And I post a lot of stuff on Facebook. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our Substack newsletter at streetshots.substack.com. We're waiting on an article from you soon.
I know.
Wave my finger at you. We had a burst of good stuff. I've got one in draft, so I might have to go up before you. But
yeah, I think you're gonna have to, because
I know. But you're writing.
I got ideas. I got ideas. I just it's
really
about the idea, not the execution. I know.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, but we'll get it there. And anyway, if you want to help support the show, right now you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. And that being said, I was thinking that I'm probably going to be switching our website over to Squarespace. And soon, that might be one of the projects I have coming up. And so I might put up a place where if people can... I haven't even bounced this idea off of you yet, but I was thinking like maybe we could have a place where if people want to buy our prints... might be a good place to put up on our website. So another way to support the show is by actually buying stuff, and that's a good place where we'll put up our zine when I finally get it done. So with the zine I've been talking about for 2 years.
Yeah. Which we do have a draft of, which looks pretty good.
I have a draft of, I just want to change the format of it a little bit, but it's really nice. But anyway, I think I'll do that. I'll probably work on that after the class and stuff like that. But anyway, that being said, for you guys in Canada, which includes you, my friend, have a good Canadian Thanksgiving next week.
We're going to be painting the house and the outside of the house, fixing the garage door. What else? I got to put brakes in one of my cars, maybe change the tires.
There's lots going on. Like a nice dinner and like a gathering?
That's on either Sunday night or Monday and a Sunday night now. We'll do that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, enjoy it.
A long weekend. You got to do stuff on long weekends,
Okay. All right. Here it's Indigenous Peoples Day or Columbus Day, depending on whatever choice you're behind.
Yes, anyway. We had that last week. We had last Tuesday was was Indigenous.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So, hey, good seeing you tonight. Everybody, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And have a good rest of the October.
Rest of the October with the leaves and such.
The leaves.
In the Northern Hemisphere.
Okay. Take care.
All right. You bet. Good night.